Okay, Bomb Squad. So today we're going to kick off something a little different here on the show. This is going to be the first mini series built into Podcasting Strategy Simplified. And I want to take some time over the course of the next 12 episodes to talk about 12 things that business owners are getting wrong with podcasting. And to do that, I'm going to pose the 12 things in the form of a question and provide the answer, much like you're used to on the Monday episodes of Podcasting Strategy Simplified. And if you're a fan of Jeopardy, I guess it's the opposite of that, but I guess in some way it's a little similar. But either way, the idea here is to address 12 key items that many business owners are getting wrong. And this is coming from my own research and looking into what most business owners are struggling with in their podcasting efforts. So we're going to kick things off here on episode 112, and let's let the good times roll. My name is Jason Sircone, and you are listening to Podcasting Strategy Simplified. So the first question in this series that we're going to answer: why does my podcast have great guests but no audience? Let's break this down in a few different ways, because as I said, this is one of the key things that many business owners are missing out on with podcasting. You have to look at what you want to accomplish. So let's look at this on the surface level of the question. How are you defining the quote unquote great guest? Are you labeling them as such, or is your audience labeling them as a great guest? See, in your mind, anybody you bring on your podcast could be a great guest, but perhaps your audience just isn't resonating with what they have to say. Now, if you're doing nothing but guest interviews on your show, that could be a big problem, depending on what you want to accomplish. Now, I've talked about this before here on Podcasting Strategy Simplified. If you want to position yourself as the expert, as the resource, as the brand or the company or the person that is going to change somebody's direction, you have to be the one that builds trust. And in doing that with guests on the show, you are splitting the audience's attention. And in many cases, what'll happen is the audience will start to view the guest as the expert, and they'll start to view you as the person who interviews the expert. So if you look at this show, I do primarily solo content. And the reason is I want to connect with you on a one-on-one basis. I want to share my expertise on this subject, and I want to show you how to leverage growth and relationship building and revenue driving in your business. If I bring guests on the show and I'm constantly referring to them or having them put their expertise in play, you have a decision to make. Who are you going to trust? Who are you going to follow? Me or that guest? Now, don't get me wrong. I like to bring guests on the show from time to time, and I look at having strong conversations versus doing interviews, but I look at the content that I put out. My solo content gets more in regards to listenership, and it serves my purpose in regards to attracting new business more so than the guest content does. So, me personally, I love having guests on the show because I love connecting with like minded individuals. I love having great conversations, and I love putting that content in front of you. But primarily, this podcast is designed as an educational tool. Podcasting Strategy Simplified is here to provide you with information on how to best use podcasting strategy in your business. If you want to take things to the next level, the idea is you listen to this show and you get tips and strategies that will help you do so. So, linking this back to your podcast, if you are asking the question of, man, I'm bringing on all these great guests to my show, but no one's listening, it may be time to reframe that question and start to look at it from the standpoint of maybe I need to be doing less guest driven content and focus more on what I can do to solve a problem for my customer or solve a problem for my listener. In doing that, you start to establish trust with your listener, and that's what's going to make them take the next step. And that will be whatever your call to action is on your podcast. You want them to come into your ecosystem. And I guess in a lot of ways, they're in your ecosystem if they're listening to your podcast, but you want to get them to that next level where you can start to talk to them on the level of a customer. And this is where a lot of business owners get it wrong because they think they have to have great conversations each and every week, and that's going to grow the audience, and that's going to bring more people into their ecosystem. In reality, what it's doing is it's most likely pushing people towards that guest. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's the model that you are trying to build. But if you're trying to build an audience specifically for your purposes, which is really what the key is if you're looking to use podcasting to drive your business, then you have to start reframing how you look at this and start to look at a different mix in regards to how much solo versus guest content you utilize. Personally, I've been using much more solo content. Actually, I haven't had a guest here on the show since episode 100. And I'll probably mix it up here and bring somebody on soon, but there's no guarantee when. I can say it won't be in the next 12 episodes because I'm going to roll out this full series before I go down that path again. So start looking at this from the standpoint of, if I want to grow my audience by bringing guests on, you have to think about all of the marketing that you're doing and all of the things that go into making sure that guest is doing their part to share the episode. And you want to make sure that you continue the conversation with that guest after the fact so they're more inclined to do so. That's going to be the question that I answer on the next episode in this series, because that one is way out of whack. When business owners use this medium and they don't use it as a networking tool and they don't use it as a way to build relationships, that is opportunity missed. And we definitely need to address that as a key part of this series. So let's flip this real quick to the guest-driven content. If you want to grow your audience by bringing guests on the show, it's extremely important that you maintain a strong relationship with that guest. Don't let the conversation die the second the interview is over. Make sure that you are maintaining strong connection. And I'm not saying drop everything, but make sure that you're staying in touch with them, because you want them to start looking at you as someone that cares and someone they can trust. That way, they're going to be more inclined to share your episode or share their episode when it goes live. But that's also how your audience can grow, because then you can start to tap into other audiences as well. But for now, my recommendation is to look at your guest to solo content mix and do a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio. And what that means is every 3 episodes or every 4 episodes are solo content. And then the 5th or 4th or 5th, depending on which ratio you choose, is your guest-driven content. That's going to make production a lot easier. It's going to make outreach a lot easier because you won't have to connect with as many guests. It's going to put you in a better position to expose yourself as the expert. And it's going to help you build more trust with your audience because you will be the only voice in the room. So if your biggest concern is that you're having great guests and you've labeled them as such, but it's not growing your audience, think about what audience growth means. If audience growth means that you're going to bring more people into your ecosystem to drive your business, you absolutely need to emphasize solo content first. That's going to position you to grow, and that's going to help you get the most from all of your podcasting efforts. And with that, we're going to bring things to a close here on episode 112 of Podcasting Strategy Simplified. This has been part 1 in a 12-part series of 12 things business owners get wrong with podcasting. If you want to do things right with podcasting for your business, set up a free strategy call with me today. Visit jasonsircone.com/strategy call and set up that call. I look forward to speaking with you soon. And until our paths cross again on the next episode of Podcasting Strategy Simplified, my name is Jason Sircone, reminding you that podcasting isn't easy, but it doesn't need to be complicated. I'll see you next time.